Okay everybody, this is part 2 of Grow Together, the series where I'm going to show you how to grow your own food at home. So by now some of you I'm sure have gone out and bought some seeds and some compost and some pots and trays for sowing in. And hopefully some of you had some success at the garden centres asking them for old pots and trays so you can recycle them. So in this video I am going to show you how to prepare the areas where you're going to grow your vegetables, whether that's your garden, your back lawn, or some containers. So first off, those of you who have designated your lawn or a grassy area to become your growing space, and I'm sure you're feeling kind of intimidated about turning over the soil and digging it up and all that hard labour that's involved with that, well, fear not, because I'm going to talk to you about a form of gardening called no-dig gardening. And yes, it is exactly what it sounds like. You're going to do very little digging, so it's going to save you on labour, you're not going to get a sore back, and you're going to have a growing area very quickly and very easily. So before I talk to you about prepping the area, I want to talk to you about no-dig gardening and why I practice it here in Portnewmarket Market Garden. No-dig gardening is about building the soil and protecting the soil because there's so much life within the soil. If you use mechanical devices like rotavators and ploughs and continuously break up the soil structure, you're killing all this life that lives within the soil. So what we do is we build the soil and protect it by adding organic material to the ground in the form of compost or manures continuously. We feed the life within it, whether that's earthworms or microbes or fungi. We look after them and we care for them, and then they give back to us with this abundance of delicious and healthy and, most importantly, really nutritious food. So the first job you need to do to prep your area for your no-dig garden is cut the grass down. Especially if it's quite long, cut it down nice and short to the ground. So next you need to source some cardboard, and it needs to be the cardboard that doesn't have that poly coating on it or any sellotape or any colouring on it. So go down to your local shopkeeper and ask them if they have any cardboard in their store, and I'm sure they'd be happy to give you some. If you struggle to find some, you can also go online and there's rolls of cardboard that you can buy that are ideal for this job. Once you've sourced your cardboard, the next job is to lay it down directly on the grass in your growing space. What this does is it kills the grass off and stops any weeds and grass from coming up into your compost. And that's the next job. You've got to source some compost, and you're going to have to put about 5 to 6 inches of compost directly on top of this cardboard. So when you're sourcing compost for your no-dig vegetable beds, it depends on the size of your garden. If it's a small area, you might just get away with the small bags of compost. If it's a larger area that you're prepping, I recommend contacting your local garden centre or hardware store, and they may do a ton bulk bag that they will deliver to your door. So I recommend making these veg beds 30 inches wide. That's sort of an industry standard for market gardening because it's easy to work from either side of the bed without overreaching into the middle. You can also put a footpath between each bed of about 18 inches, and it's nice to put wood chip on this for a really tidy and clean garden. So next I'm going to talk to you about raised beds, and there's pros and cons to having raised beds, so let's start off with the pros. First of all, if you need your working height to be more elevated, then a raised bed is perfect for you. Secondly, if the ground where you're putting your raised bed is wet and has poor drainage, then a raised bed is excellent at preventing your soil and your compost from getting waterlogged. And thirdly, if you have a limited growing space, then raised beds are ideal for keeping everything neat and tidy and in its place. So now the cons of having raised beds. First of all, they cost you money. You're going to have to buy material like timber or tin sheeting. Second of all, if you have a deep raised bed, you're going to have to buy quite a bit of soil or compost to fill it up. Third, sometimes raised beds dry out quite quickly in summer sun, so you're going to have to do a lot of watering. And finally, if you have timber raised beds, you'll find that little pests like slugs love to sleep in beside the timber during the day and then come out at night to eat your vegetables. So if you are going to build raised beds in your garden, you can still use the no-dig rule and put down the cardboard first. If you have a low raised bed, you can still put in 5 or 6 inches of compost and you're ready to grow in that. If you have a big deep raised bed, then here's a handy tip. Don't just fill it with soil and compost. Start off with some really rough materials like logs and branches to bulk it up. Then go to wherever you dump your grass cuttings and throw them in too. If you have gathered up leaves through the winter, get them in there. Put in anything that organic material that will bulk it up to save you on soil and compost. Ideally, you do need to get some topsoil into a deep raised bed as well as compost too. And finally, for those of you who are growing on balconies or in patio areas and you're using containers, you have a simpler task. You just need to get your containers and you need to fill them with compost and you're ready for growing. But if you have a particularly deep container, then you can follow the same method as a deep raised bed. You can add some very light branches at the bottom or some dead leaves or grass cuttings too, just to save on the cost of compost. Okay folks, so that's the end of part 2. In the next video, we're going to start sowing seeds. Spring is only around the corner. I can feel the excitement building. We're going to grow together.